the bank.
Hey Brett, how's it going this week?
Good, Ange. How are you?
Good. Well, that means it's another episode of Money in the Bank, the podcast where we talk about all things related to personal finance and more. We mentioned in our last episode that we have had some exciting life changes and...
Ta-da! This is the biggest one I think we can tell you guys, is now we are expecting a little baby of some kind.
Yeah.
We don't know what yet, but that's going to be due for us in July this year. And so we're about halfway through that journey. So we're currently in the stage of getting a bunch of stuff for the baby or picking out stuff for, what we need to have for the baby. Very life-changing experience. This is our first one. So, we're going through this learning process just like most people probably do.
Yeah.
Starting from nothing.
And I really like that you said we don't know what kind of baby yet. Like, could be a monkey.
Could be a kangaroo.
Could be a dog.
Yeah.
Probably a human, but, I guess we'll see.
Right.
So first, your trivia question before I forget. How much do people spend in a baby's first year on average in America?
In their first year? It's a lot of diapers in the first year, right?
Diapers. Some people have to do formula. This includes like all the upfront costs, like a car seat and a crib. And
I'm going to say, everybody says babies are really expensive. So let's say $8,000.
$10,616.
Oh man, that's a very specific number.
Yeah, these Google trivia questions I find are only of the highest quality that I independently verify. So no, it's really interesting because people say that babies are really expensive. Mustachians tell me that infants are really cheap. And kids just get expensive when they get older and their stomachs grow and they eat more. Because did you know that an infant's stomach is the size of a marble? So they're not going to get you out of house and home like the way a 16-year-old
pizza
teenager will, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I could eat like 4 boxes of pastaroni in a sitting in my prime. So that number actually seems really high to me because ultimately it's this little tiny human that you really just need to feed it, let it sleep, and that's it.
Right. So we've done, as we do with everything, right? We do a lot of research into these areas. We find out what products are good and not good and what's the right thing. What is the right thing to buy, not the most expensive thing, not the thing that's the most popular that is trendy or whatever.
Sophie the giraffe, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, so that stupid giraffe, right? I love the reviews that are all yeah, my baby chewed on this for 3 seconds and then threw it on the ground. And I was I don't want that. And so with everything, we're trying to figure out how do we go through this process the best way possible, not spend a fortune for just stuff that is not going to be used. Obviously, we'll probably have more of an update once the baby's actually here for us, and we'll do a review of what we did end up getting and what worked and what didn't work. But we want to actually, have a real life scenario before we talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and of course, me, in the first year, I will very carefully keep track of all of our expenses and see if we meet or exceed that $10,616 number, because I think that'll be really interesting to find out how much we do spend on a kid. But for now, the kind of point of this podcast is I just thought it would be interesting for listeners who might be expecting as well, or maybe you already have kids and you can shoot us some great feedback on everything that we are considering that is incorrect. But I thought it would just be kind of interesting because this will apply for people who don't have kids as well. This is just our thought process in researching and buying anything. It's just typically in our normal day-to-day life, we don't buy that much anymore. So this has been an opportunity for us where we do need to buy some material possessions for this child. And so it's given us a chance to kind of flex our researching product muscles that we haven't necessarily had to do too much in the past couple of years since we have most of the things we need in life.
Right, because as a reminder, we are now living in Chicago in a 2-bedroom apartment. It's really 1.5 bedroom.
Yeah, it's 1 bedroom with a half wall.
In less than 1,000 square foot footprint for our whole place, right? So
yeah.
So for American size modeling, that's a pretty small place to have a kid. But there's a lot of people in this situation as well, right? Most people in New York have been dealing with this for a long time. Most people
DC,
in big
San
cities.
Francisco. Yeah, we're
this
not
is
the
not
only
an uncommon
ones.
thing. So, but for all of us other people in the Midwest, this is a much smaller footprint. So we try and not get as much stuff. We try and just not like fill up the room with a bunch of big furniture, right? So getting like a gigantic crib and like another like side bed or whatever those are called, bassinets or whatever. Right, like the whole like if you just go to like, what do you need for a new baby website? It's just like you could buy like probably $30,000 worth of like just stuff that would be accessories for babies.
Yeah, and I would say that, Brett and I also err on the side of we trend towards being a little bit more minimalist than the average consumer. I won't say we're like full-blown minimalist. We can't fit all of our worldly possessions in our car. But, that just means like things like tons of toys and tons of clothes aren't really where we're going to spend our time, money, or effort. Because quite frankly, like infants, they need enough clothes to get by because they spit on themselves a lot and, pee and poop everywhere because they're disgusting little humans. But they don't need like tons and tons of clothes because they're going to outgrow them and they're going to move into, from newborn to 0 to 3 months before you know it. And then they're going to move to 3 to 6 months. And it's like a never ending cycle. So as much as you can resist the urge to buy every single cute outfit you see, I actually saw this one post online on Reddit, I think I was on, where they said at their baby shower, their kid got 120 outfits just in the 0 to 3 month category.
Oh, wow.
And they were like, that means that they had I could put them in a brand new outfit every day and not run out of outfits. And we all know that newborns typically will go through more than one outfit a day, but that was still like obviously very excessive.
For like never doing laundry, right? Just like use it, throw it away, which again is like the worst model ever because you don't want to just be like dumping baby clothes into the garbage.
Yeah. And in terms of baby toys, we are pretty lucky because we have a dog. And what I found out is that baby toys and dog toys are basically the same thing. They squeak and they're stuffed animals.
Exactly. Yeah. So multi-purpose functionality. I don't know how she's going to feel about that though.
So yeah, let's talk about some bigger items like cribs. Let's start there, Brett. So we have been going to different baby furniture stores and looking at cribs. And like Brett mentioned, we have our nursery size is probably, I think it's like a 9x10 room. So it's actually bigger than I would have hoped to get in a city. You can end up with like really dinky rooms here. So it's not a terrible size room, but we don't have a ton of space in general in our apartment, so we also double that room as like storage.
We don't have extra space. We have very intentional space, like where our like table is for eating is in one spot, and our like living room is like just the perfect size for like the stuff that we have in there, and we're not like looking to expand it. And so like this room is a dedicated space, and it has room for the crib or at some point,
freezer.
It has a freezer in it, from that like whole pig that we bought like years ago now, and like all of our bulk like nuts and stuff is in the closet right now. So we're trying to like eat down all of the bulk food that we've been getting over the last couple of years to kind of get that stuff out of here. And so we have room for like a dresser, right? So we can store like some baby clothes and like other utility things that are going to go along with this process, and like a changing mat, right? So we can like kind of like take that stuff anywhere. And so things here and there, but there's not going to be a whole lot of like extra stuff. Maybe like a rocking chair, the bed, and I think a dresser were the only furniture items we were going to be able to get and kind of fit correctly into this space and still be able to move around, right?
Yeah, exactly. So cribs, let's kind of start there. So at first, we went to some stores and we found some, I would say, budget cribs. They were about $100, and when we were just like feeling them, we were like, these kind of just feel flimsy, like what's going on? So then we went to a, popular chain baby store, and, the Baby R Us of today's world, because I think Babies R Us went out of business.
Yeah, I think so.
But they had like some medium range cribs that were like nice, but they were like huge and very extravagant. And they were like, oh, but the benefit of these cribs is it goes from being a crib to a toddler bed to you can fit a full-size bed and here's the headboard. And I was like, oh, that's so attractive. That'll last forever. And then I was like, why am I going to spend $500 on this when I don't even know if this is like we don't even have a headboard or a footboard for our current bed.
Right.
So it's not a need.
It's like not a necessary thing. Yeah. Let alone like a feature that I need to pay extra for a crib, right?
Right. So we kept doing more and more research, and we found one that got rave reviews from IKEA of all places. That was like $100. And it was, we don't have it physically yet, but this is just one area that doing a little bit more research, we found one that would fit into our space better, which was really important to us because if it's too big, we, can't keep our freezer in there, which is where we put all of our berries and
Right,
bulk food.
And we're only going to have, as far as I know, we're not having twins, so we only need enough space for like, one baby. And I don't need like a gigantic crib that's like 6 feet long and like 3 feet wide, like a lot of those that we saw were, right? I mean, they were massive. They were bigger than like a bathtub.
Well, what's crazy to me is this still fits the standard mattress. So, like, the mattress size isn't changing. It's just like the extra surround of it that, like,
I don't know.
Some of them were just very, like, ornate. And Brett made the good point, too. Like, there's things that you might clip on the crib, like a baby monitor. And some of these, like, over-the-top styled ones have nowhere to actually put that.
Right. Yeah. Even some of the most popular and super expensive baby monitors on the market, they like clip onto the rails. And right when you have this like curvy rail or whatever, it doesn't actually clip on there. So you have to put it on like a different spot, which is like in your way rather than be where it's supposed to be designed to be. So I don't know.
Yeah. So, that was one area that for us, we wanted to find the right fit for the room and find something that wasn't terribly expensive. And so we, like I said, we'll update you on all of this stuff as we go, but it seemed like a good option, so that's the one that we're going to try to shoot for now. And baby mattresses were, like, in that ballpark, too. You could spend, like, very little on them, or you could spend a fortune on them, and we found one kind of in the middle.
Right. So we'll see how this one goes. This is the one maybe I have the most turmoil over, because I've seen varying reviews between, good baby mattresses are not that much better than, the regular ones, regularly priced ones. And I've seen other people say, like, the mattress is probably like the thing that people would splurge the most on if you had to pick like one thing from people that have already been through this whole process, right? So we'll see. We think we have like a very good one that's like pretty economical price. And I haven't seen a whole lot of reviews on this one yet, so we will see how that goes. But I'm pretty confident that it'll be okay. Because you don't want something that's like too soft because there's like baby like spinal issues and stuff like that. So we won't get into all the details, but we've looked at probably like 30 or 40 different products in this category, and it's like you could spend like $400 on a mattress, or you could spend like $100 on a mattress, which still to me seems like a lot.
Right. For something that the baby's going to sleep on for a couple of years, 2 to 3 years at best, if you convert it to a toddler bed, and then you're going to probably upgrade them to like a twin or full-size bed at some point in their life. Yeah.
And so I'll throw in here now, like getting some of this stuff like used is also a totally fine thing to do, right? Definitely the crib, because what do you do after you like don't need a crib anymore? And it's probably in just like pristine condition, right? Probably somebody didn't take a hammer to the crib in the 1 year that they've like owned it or 2 years that they've owned it. The mattresses, maybe that's a little bit more weird. But, depending what the condition is of the mattress is, it probably could be just fine. Usually they're covered in, like, waterproof covers anyway most of the time. Yeah. So the actual mattress part of it is not going to have, like, a whole bunch of wear and tear from a baby that only weighs, like, 10 pounds.
Yeah, and you might be saying, hey, why aren't you guys doing used then? Well, we actually very generously had a family member who wanted to purchase this for us, and I've learned in life by dealing with said family member that it makes them happy to do nice things for us, and so we will accept their gracious gift without too much of a fight, and we'll kind of save the secondhand stuff for other aspects that we can save money on ourselves.
Right, but we are definitely open to the secondhand market for like most of this stuff. I think
absolutely.
All of the secondhand markets across any lifestyle choice, right? Like thrift stores or whatever, like baby stuff is something that you just have in your life for a very short period of time. It doesn't have enough time to even depreciate because it doesn't get that much use, and for a lot of it, obviously like pacifiers and stuff don't do that, but like the rest of that stuff probably all still in good condition, and like you could probably pick it up for nothing. You probably go through 3 or 4 or 5 generations of families that go through and use this stuff before it even like starts to look like it's deteriorating.
And I will say the one thing on a crib I would be fine getting secondhand. A mattress I would be fine getting secondhand if I was getting it from like a friend or something. I am hesitant to get a mattress secondhand in a big city because Brett and I have already dealt with bed bugs in the city, and it is something that I would not wish on my own worst enemy. So that is one area where I am just typically a little hesitant to buy used mattresses.
Whether it's a bed mattress or infant mattress or whatever.
Yeah. So moving on to another kind of similar category is a bassinet or a travel crib. And so we are electing to get a travel crib to use in our room as a bassinet instead of getting a dedicated bassinet.
And also because we, particularly in our lifestyle, tend to just like leave for like weeks at a time, right, to go to different states. It's not like we're doing like overnights at like a friend's house or anything like that. Like we go back and visit our family for like 2 weeks at a time because we have the ability to do that. And we go visit people for weekends at a time that are like 3 or 4 or 5 hours away. So I feel like the travel crib is going to get more use than our like regular crib. But Angela's fighting me on that too. So
no, I think it will. But we thought about just doing a travel crib. There are people who do that. But we decided for us, it would be nice for the kid to have their dedicated regular crib, and as well as a travel crib. And so that way we have the option to have the kid sleep in our room, like the traditional bassinet scenario, but we're not buying a dedicated bassinet that will only be used for a few months and then discarded.
Right.
So we're just going to make it work with the travel crib. And then the benefit is we have a great thing to take, back home when we visit family, so our families don't have to buy cribs, or friends or whoever and we do travel a lot. We don't necessarily plan to completely overhaul that when the kid's here. And I think it's really nice for them to have a routine and like a safe place to sleep that stays consistent. So that when they're like, okay, it's bedtime, it's like, okay, even though I'm in a different home, I'm in my bed that I'm used to, which is kind of nice.
So again, this, we have not gone through this experience yet. We don't know if this is going to work or not, but from the research that we've done, we feel like this is the best kind of scenario for our personal lifestyle and what we'll get into. But we will definitely, again, like I said, do an update of like, recap of all the baby choices that we made after we've been through the process for, 6 months or so to say, this is totally working, or like, oh man, I really wish we didn't do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'll be fun.
Another area that I've seen a lot of people register for items is a baby food maker or a baby food processor. These typically can be $100 even. And we are just not going to buy one because we have a regular food processor.
Right. So I looked at a lot of these because for Christmas, Angela got a food processor, another one of those fun things that we've been holding out on for like 6-7 years. And we're like, we don't really need this. And we're like, finally, like, all right, we'll splurge.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it does a lot of work for us since we cook all the time. But we looked into a lot of like the baby like food pureers and stuff like that. And none of them got like better reviews than like a regular food processor can do anyway. And a regular food processor tends to be cheaper than all that stuff was regardless. So we were just like, nope, we'll just use a regular food processor like we would any day in the kitchen. And we'll just like use it to make like, pureed baby food whenever that, we get into that lifestyle, right? But that's pretty far down the road, I think, for solid foods and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I just know it's like a common registry item that I see. So I did want to toss that out. Is that something that we're just not going to get for now? And again, we'll update you if our method works or not.
Yeah.
That'll be a while out. So, you have something to really look forward to. Okay, so then another area that I wanted to move into is car and car seat. So we are currently driving a 2007 two-door Honda Civic. And one of the number one questions I have gotten from people who know us and know our car has typically been, are you going to get a 4-door car? And we really thought about it. We went to a dealership, actually. We looked at a couple different cars, a couple different styles. We looked at some used cars. We thought through our options. Our current car is priceless to me, and the dealer offered me $1,500, and I almost, actually first he offered us $750, and I almost punched him in the face because it has brand new tires on it that are like $600 tires. I was like, this is just insulting.
Right.
And so, we kind of did a lot of research, and we have decided that instead of buying a new expensive car for right now, because the baby is going to be small for a while, we are going to keep our two-door Honda Civic and just find a car seat that fits into it.
Right. Or even a used, less expensive car. For the cars that we were looking to get of the equivalency of our Honda Civic, it was like not that great a value to switch out, and just like kind of a pain to change it. So we're just going to see how it goes, right? Because we could have just swapped into a 4-door, but, we'd rather test the waters, I think, is what the end result of our decision was.
Brett really just hates how the 2007 4-door Honda Civics look.
Yeah.
But I will also say, some people might kind of say, hey, isn't that a safety concern being in a two-door car with a baby? I will say the best thing you can do with a baby is drive less. And we are living a lifestyle where we don't actually drive all that often. So our risk factor already for getting in a car accident is much lower just because we go weeks and months even sometimes without driving our vehicle, even one time. So again, this is something that fits for our lifestyle. And I think the real intent behind this podcast is to not tell you what to do with your life, but to kind of walk through some of the decisions we're making and why they fit for our life. And so, there was a month that we put 6 miles on our car. And when it's that kind of low mileage, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense to spend a ton of money getting a new vehicle when we're not in it very often.
Right. We'll either drive kind of across town to go to a grocery store that has like a ridiculous sale price on something that we need to get a bunch of, or we'll drive to, 3 or 4 or 5 hours to another state to visit family.
Right.
But
sometimes we just take the train to go back to visit family as well, which, it seems like with a baby and having to deal with them, it might be easier to take them on the train where I can get up and walk around and rock them or whatever I need to do. We're, again, for our scenario, since we kind of evaluated this situation, we just don't drive enough to warrant getting a new car at this time when our car, again, is priceless to me and apparently worthless to everybody else.
Right. So we just happened to find a review of somebody that had a same model car, and I think not the exact same year, but the same model year as our car, that was a 2-door, and they said that they got a particular car seat that we were looking at anyway, and that it did fit in their car, and they didn't have to crank their seat all the way up to the dash, and they were just had their face planted on the dash because the seat was so far forward. So we are optimistic. We haven't gotten the stuff yet to fit it in there and see how it is and see how it goes. But again, that'll be in the next couple of months. But that's the thing probably I'm worried about the most, is the inconvenience of that. But again, what went into our decision making was we really don't drive that often, and if we do, it's for pretty short distances in town for very short durations, and if it is for a road trip, we have alternative options as well.
Yeah, and I will say this is one of those areas where if we get into it and we're like, this is horrible, you can always buy a car.
Right.
They sell them every day of the week.
Right.
So we can definitely get a different car, and if anybody is selling a used Tesla for a reasonable price, feel free to let me know. But I have not seen any used Teslas at a good price. And that factored in our decision as well. Brett and I really support the electric vehicle movement, whether it's a Bolt or a Leaf or a Tesla. But we just don't think the technology is quite there for us to, splurge on that yet. So we were like, if we can make our car last even a few more years and let that kind of technology get even more sorted out, we feel like we're going to be in a better position to buy something.
Yep.
So,
Mm-hmm.
And I will say another area that we do choose to buy new instead of used is a car seat. Again, I don't think this is necessarily, you don't have to buy new, but I do know that car seat recalls happen and they change the safety standards a decent amount, more often than I thought they would. And so this was one of the items that several people recommended to me to get new, because then you don't have to worry about if it meets the current standards and everything. You just know it does.
Right. So you could go buy the craziest expensive car seat this year, and it's the only thing that's going to save your kid's life, and then next year this they change the regulations and all of a sudden your kid's in a death trap, right? That's kind of the impression people try and give when they're changing these regulations and stuff. I don't know, it's probably basically all the same stuff, unless there's some major defect with a product where it comes unbuckled in the event of an accident or something like that.
But I will say we also chose to do a 3-in-1 car seat, so it'll last the kid a longer time. So then if we were buying a used one, it might be somebody who's selling this after a few years of use, and if they had 2 kids, let's say, it might be several years of use. And so then you get into a product that is 6 years old, and who knows, I'm not saying that it's a death trap at that point, but it might just be time to retire.
Right, because the buckles might only be rated for 1,000 clicks or 10,000 clicks or something, right? And right, so you'd have to look at that stuff individually and do research in that category. But the one that we looked at wasn't that expensive in the first place. So I think that's in our personal situation kind of an easy win to say we'll just get the the $100 one or whatever, right?
Right. Yeah, and definitely, you can do a lot of research because there's a lot of car seats out there. There's a huge variety of prices. And I recommend just going to a store and like playing with some because different ones buckle easier or, whatever. So it's definitely like a personal preference thing to some degree.
Yep. But definitely look into a wide variety of reviews too and just see what other people have tried first, because that's the easiest way to see like, most people are recommending like this one, right? They've tried a couple different ones and like, here are the reasons why they didn't like those other ones. And if that kind of meshes with you, then that saves you, the front half of doing your research. But again, definitely go check out some of these ones in person because they're available like everywhere for the most part.
Okay, so then another area I wanted to touch on is baby monitors. So we kind of mentioned this with the crib that there were, some that you can clip on. And so at first, Brett found one that was like $300. And I was like, that's kind of a lot for a baby monitor, but, I guess maybe.
Right, and it's way more expensive than our crib was. So I was like, the ability to like...
And our car seat.
monitor Big Brother style is like way more important.
Well, and it's kind of crazy to me because ultimately, like, the technology for baby monitors is a simple GoPro camera that has existed for like 20 years.
Right, the concept is nothing, right? It's a video camera that has audio recording capabilities, has like a pretty, higher fidelity than like garbage video. And like, any used GoPro is going to have better quality than like what most of these baby monitors push out on the market. Like it's just like total trash and they're trying to like upsell these things.
Right.
So right, there's a pro one on the market right now that's like about $300 and it like hooks onto the crib or hooks onto the wall and like gives you like a bird's eye view of the crib. And so that seems to be like the go-to recommendation for a lot of people for like the Cadillac model of baby monitors. It works with your phone. It works over like a wireless network style because that's the difference. Is it like an RF monitor, like radio frequency, where it's like short range and you can use it anywhere, where it's like you get a separate screen that's dedicated to like that camera or that baby monitor, or do you just have like any camera or a system that like you use an app and it just sends the video to your phone? And your phone screen is definitely going to be better than like all of these baby monitor screens. So that's one area. And then it's like the resolution of the camera is the other factor. So if you just want to be looking at like a baby blur and not really be able to see what's going on, some of the cheaper baby monitors, that's all you're going to get out of it. And you're basically just relying on it for like audio. Mm-hmm. But there's a $25 one that was also recommended that was basically like a sweet version of a GoPro. So it was a 1080p camera. Had great like night vision capabilities, has obviously 1080p, so it's really high fidelity, works with a phone app, and is basically a competitor to like the Nest cameras and stuff and like the Google cameras for like living room nanny cams and stuff. But it was only like $25. So worst case scenario, I'm going to give this thing a try. But like all the reviews I've seen anybody talk about this thing said it's like a great camera in the first place and works perfectly for baby monitors because you can just like stick it on the wall and just like run a USB cable to it. And it like works perfectly. So I'm excited to give that a shot because I was like, maybe I should do the $300 camera, which again would have been ridiculous because they should definitely not cost that much for like a basic camera that like gives you good quality audio and video to this $25 camera that is going to give me good quality audio and video.
Right. So instead of buying the Cadillac, we're sticking with the Honda.
Sticking with the Honda, yeah. Except it's all souped up. It's a Honda with the nav system, right?
Which we have, we got that sick 2007 nav system. Doesn't even have half the roads anymore. It's great. But yeah, so for us, we were like, we're going to try it. It's $25. If it doesn't work, we'll let you know. But if it does work, like, it's pretty awesome.
Then nobody should ever buy anything else, right? Like,
right.
Yeah.
So I think that's most of what we kind of wanted to run through. Is there anything else that you want to mention in this podcast? We can obviously do more on this if people are interested in hearing how we kind of walked through some of this. I think those are the big things we've really thought about.
Yeah.
Recently.
So again, I mean, it's easy for us to fall into these, old habits of like doing research on this stuff. Again, I tend to fall into a lot of YouTube videos and like find a lot of different, like mommy bloggers and daddy bloggers. There's like daddy YouTube channels that are like really good quality, great for reviewing. The baby like harnesses to or carriers, where you like basically like wear the baby in front of you. That's something that we're really excited about as well for our circumstance, more so than a stroller from living in a downtown urban city area. getting on a bus with a stroller is a nightmare that I want to have no part of.
Yeah.
So, all right, I would rather much rather carry the baby around when we go for walks and stuff. So finding like a good ergonomical harness is again another really important one for us. So again, we looked at the Cadillac model that was again like $300 plus $400 for like a good like ergonomic baby carrier. But again, doing a bunch of reviews, you're finding out like those aren't that great, and there's like some problems with some of those, and like there's some key features of that those have that some like really cheaper models have that you don't hear anything about. So just getting a wide variety of things, and you can quickly do that from YouTube videos of like real people that have kids, and they show their kids in it, using it, and there's real experience from like my kid's a toddler and like this works great for me, and like they're a lot heavier now and I have like no back problems because of this. It just really helps kind of narrow down the search without going to a store and like asking the guy that works at the store, like they don't have this experience,
right?
Like nobody is training them on how like what are all the different use cases and real-time experience for like all of these like carriers that they sell, and maybe they don't even sell all the good ones, right? Maybe they just sell a couple of ones here and there.
And I will say, like, our experience going to stores and asking questions is we get steered towards these very expensive items that I'm sure are good. But we sat down and we, because in our initial research, I was like, I want to hands-on see some products, get a feel for it. So we went to a few different stores here in town. And I mean, really quickly, we could have exceeded that $10,000 spend between a crib and a carrier and a stroller. I mean, strollers can go for like thousands of dollars even. It's crazy. Car seats, all of that. And then just by pulling back, and because it can get very overwhelming, I will say for other expecting parents out there, especially when it's your first, like it is for us, this can all be very, very overwhelming. There's a lot of information, a lot of resources, a lot of people telling you, if you're going to splurge on one item, splurge on this. And then they all have a different item that they pick. And pulling back and just like taking a deep breath, taking some time to think about it, and then jumping back in and kind of going item by item on your list and doing research, it takes a lot of time, but quite frankly, I think it's worth it because now we just do feel a little bit more comfortable with our decisions. And just in these few items that we've talked about alone, we've like dropped down, thousands of dollars in spend because we're like, we found some options that are, potentially even better reviewed and just significantly cheaper.
Right. And for everybody else in the world listening to this, right, again, this is a very American slant on like, child development and things you need for new babies and stuff. But probably what most people do in the rest of the world is nowhere near as crazy as like what the default purchase process is for like, middle to high income earners in America for what they're getting for their kids. So It's just like when you go through this process, and again, for specifically Americans, saying, what would somebody else in another country do? Like, what do people in Europe do when they like are in this situation? Or what do people in Africa do with newborn kids in this situation? And like, the answer is it's pretty much default stuff, and they just like deal with it, and it's like not that difficult. And here we're just like, we have to get prepared, and like we have to have all these tricks and like things that make it easier. And at the end of the day, you really just want to like make sure that you do whatever you need to do to like make it through the night, and have the things that make your life a little bit easier, but you don't want to like, wrap your baby in like Nerf material and just like make sure they're permanently safe forever and, never take any damage of any kind. You gotta get some wear and tear on that baby. Otherwise they never learn the experiences of the world.
Yeah. So hopefully this kind of helps, even if you aren't expecting, just kind of how we walk through. I mean, we really do this for any product that we're going to buy. I can't even tell you the last time we walked into a store, talked to a salesperson, and walked out with an item. We typically will find a product and be like, oh, maybe we're interested in buying this, pull it back, do some research, and either validate, yes, we choose to spend our money in this way, or no, there's actually a better product out there that suits our needs. Winter coats was something that I researched for like 7 years before buying one, and I will say that I am super happy with the winter coat that I have now. So we literally do this for almost every purchase that we make, and you might say it sounds a bit crazy. I say that it keeps our spending in check, because when you have to do so much research for each purchase, you can only purchase so many things a year.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
And I feel like any time historically that we have walked into a store and bought something without knowing kind of what it is or, what we needed, then it's always been kind of a mistake. So you get burned by that a couple times. Like you did get a winter coat in the past that was like pretty expensive. And we're like, oh, this is going to be great. It's on paper. It's got all these, like, it's checking all the boxes. And then it was like garbage. Like, it didn't keep you warm at all. Like, it was like too short for you over a long run. So, you know, just take it back, spend some extra time with it. If it's still the right decision, it'll be there, you know, in a couple weeks or whatever after you've looked into it. But, you know, that's always our recommendation, is buy the right thing for you. But make sure what you're getting is the right thing for you.
Right. And so again, hopefully this podcast didn't come across as us trying to tell you what to buy for your kid. We didn't mean it that way at all. We just kind of wanted to point out some of the areas where we originally were like, these products are highly reviewed. And then they were also expensive. And we pulled it back and did some research, and we found a better fit for us, which is what we recommend you do with all of your purchases, is find the right item for you. You know, obviously, it's not the same for everybody. We have our own style of living that is, you know, might be different from how you live, but everybody has the right product for them, and it is usually not the Cadillac option. So that $1,000 stroller is probably not necessary.
I think I just had like an umbrella with wheels when I was a kid, basically. It folded up.
But not when you were an infant.
Yeah, probably.
Like, they did, no, you need a different infant one.
No, they just didn't even take me anywhere.
That's right.
Let me roll around the backyard for a while.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you have any questions or comments, as always, you can shoot me an email. I will drop all of my contact information in below. If you are from another country and you're like, hey, you guys are ridiculous, or maybe you're like, hey, actually, this was helpful, I'd be curious to know what that experience is actually like, too, because we don't know a ton of babies in other countries. So just a couple.
Yeah.